It's our part 4 on malaria. In this part, I am going to discuss different modes of transmission of malaria, various clinical features of malaria, including vivax malaria, falciparum malaria, oval malaria, and malaria, different complications of malaria, diagnosis of malaria, and differential diagnosis of malaria. Let's begin with modes of transmission of malaria. There are three important modes of transmission. First, most important is vector transmission. Second is direct transmission, or it is also known as transfusion malaria. And third important transmission is transplacental transmission, or it is also known as congenital malaria. Vector transmission, as you can see in this image, vector of malaria, that is female Anopheles mosquito. So vector transmission is transmission of malaria which occurs due to bites of infected female Anopheles mosquito. Now whether all female Anopheles mosquito can transmit infection? No. It is only those female Anopheles mosquito can transmit infection which harbors sporozoites in their salivary gland. But at the same time, single infected female Anopheles mosquito has potential to transmit malaria to several persons. Direct transmission, this is a rare mode of transmission which is seen in malaria. It occurs due to blood transfusion when blood is contaminated with merozoites. Malarial parasites, they remains infective for 14 days in blood stored at 4 degrees Celsius. This type of malaria which occurs following blood transfusion is called as transfusion malaria, and it is merozoite induced malaria. So if we compare this with vector transmission, in vector transmission malaria is sporozoite induced malaria. But in direct transmission which occurs due to blood transfusion, it is merozoite induced malaria. Now since blood transfusion can transmit malaria, malaria patients should not donate blood for 3 years following infection with malaria. Direct transmission can also occur in drug addicts, but here it occurs due to accidental inoculation of malarial parasites due to sharing of contaminated syringes or needles. In this image, you can see possibility of occurrence of malaria in a recipient of blood if blood is contaminated with merozoites of malarial parasite. Transplacental transmission, or it is also called as mother to child transmission. Transplacental transmission of malarial parasite can cause congenital malaria in newborns. But this congenital malaria in newborns is a rare mode of transmission. Clinical features of malaria. Incubation period. Average incubation period for falciparum malaria is 12 days. It may range from 9 days to 14 days. Average incubation period for falciparum malaria is 14 days, and it may range from 8 days to 17 days. In some cases, maximum incubation period for vivax malaria may be up to even 9 months. Average incubation period of oval malaria is 17 days, and it may range from 16 to 18 days. Whereas average incubation period for malaria is 28 days, and it may range from 18 days to 40 days. Clinical features of malaria, it includes 3 important stages. These stages are cold stage, hot stage, and sweating stage. So we can say the most important characteristic feature of malaria is fever with rigors. And peaks of fever, it coincides with release of merozoites from erythrocytes. So when erythrocytic seasons rupture, there is release of large quantities of pyrogens, and this release of pyrogens is responsible for producing febrile paroxysms in patient. In this slide, you can see three stages of malaria. Chill stage. Chill stage is followed by hot stage where there is fever, and hot stage is further followed by sweating stage. First stage in malaria is cold stage. Duration of this stage varies from 15 minutes to 1 hour. So initially patient has chilly sensation, skin feels cold, and patient develops rigors or patient develops shaking chills, and patient tries to cover himself or herself. This chilly sensation or shaking chills or rigor, it is associated with headache and nausea. Very soon temperature starts increasing, and as temperature increases, patient may develop vomiting or severity of headache may go on increasing. If you check pulse rate at this stage when temperature has developed, you may find tachycardia, that is increase in pulse rate. Cold stage is followed by second stage. Second stage of malaria is hot stage. Duration of hot stage varies from 2 hours to 6 hours. In this stage, patient feels burning hot. Skin is hot to touch and it is dry to touch. There is tachycardia, there is rapid breathing, but in hot stage, nausea may get reduced. Hot stage is followed by sweating stage. Sweating stage is third stage in malaria. Duration of this stage is from 2 hours to 4 hours. In this stage, patient develops profuse sweating or there is drenching sweat. Fever comes down, skin becomes cool, it becomes moist, and this is the stage when patient feels better and patient may sleep. Plasmodium vivax malaria, it is also called as benign tertian malaria. Why it is called as benign malaria? Because vivax malaria is mild and it is less dangerous than falciparum malaria. It is called as tertian malaria because febrile paroxysms occur on every third day. The most important characteristic feature of vivax malaria is relapse. So vivax malaria cases may show relapse, and what is reason for the relapse? It occurs because of the latent forms of parasite in liver. And these latent forms of parasites which remain in liver are called as hypnozoites. So while treating malaria, it is very important to give treatment which can prevent relapse of vivax malaria. Plasmodium ovale malaria, it is called as ovale tertian malaria. Tertian because febrile paroxysms occur on every third day. Ovale malaria is less common to occur, but like vivax malaria, it has tendency to relapse, and relapse occurs due to hypnozoites. So, ovale malaria also requires treatment to prevent its relapse. Plasmodium malariae malaria, it is known as quartan malaria. Quartan malaria because febrile paroxysms occur on every fourth day. So it is suggestive that erythrocytic seizogony is completed in 72 hours by Plasmodium malariae parasites. And this malaria, it is also less common to occur. Cold stage, hot stage, and sweating stage are three important stages in malaria. But in clinical practice, these three stages of malaria may not be seen distinctly. This is because generations or broods of malarial parasites they mature at different times. Complications of vivax malaria, oval malaria, and Plasmodium malaria. So these complications includes anemia, hemolytic jaundice, splenomegaly, that is enlargement of spleen, hepatomegaly, that is enlargement of liver, some renal complications, and febrile herpes. Febrile herpes is common complication which is seen in these types of malaria. Chronic complication of malaria, it includes tropical splenomegaly. Repeated attacks of malaria leads to this complication. It occurs due to abnormal immune response. There is massive splenomegaly. It is seen in many cases of malaria. In addition to massive splenomegaly, few cases of malaria may also show hepatomegaly. Falciparum malaria, it is malignant malaria. It is called as malignant because it produces dangerous complications. It may present as tertian malaria or subtertian malaria or quotidian malaria, or sometimes periodicity may not be found in falciparum malaria. What is tertian malaria? Paroxysms occurs on every third day. What is subtertian malaria? Paroxysms occur after 36 hours. And quotidian malaria, paroxysms occurs daily. What clinical features we can see in falciparum malaria? There is severe headache, there is severe nausea and vomiting. Some patients may develop delirious condition. And in falciparum malaria, cold stage and hot stage are not seen distinctly. Complications of falciparum malaria. We can see these complications in falciparum malaria: cerebral malaria, hyperpyrexia, dehydration. Some patients may develop convulsions. There is hypoglycemia. Severe anemia is common complication in falciparum malaria. Black water fever, acute renal failure, acute tubular necrosis, and hepatic damage are important complications seen in falciparum malaria. Out of these most dangerous complications, it includes cerebral malaria and black water fever. Cerebral malaria. A case of cerebral malaria may present with high-grade fever, convulsions, coma, and signs of meningeal irritations. Whereas a case of black water fever has intravascular hemolysis. There is hemoglobinuria, and this hemoglobinuria changes color of urine. So there is black water or Coca-Cola colored urine which is seen in black water fever. Note here one more thing, that black water fever may occur in those cases of malaria treated with quinine. Diagnosis of malaria. Some basic tests which are done for diagnosis of malaria, it includes microscopy, serological tests, and rapid diagnostic tests. Microscopy, it includes PBS, that is peripheral blood smear. So in peripheral blood smear, it is important to prepare two types of smears. One is thick smear and other is thin smear. Thick smear, it helps to demonstrate parasites, whereas thin smear, it helps in identification of particular species of malarial parasites. So whether it is vivax, whether it is falciparum, whether it is oval, or whether it is malaria, we can identify this with the help of thin smear. And at the same time, in this smear, we can identify various stages of malarial parasite. In this slide, you can see findings on peripheral blood smear. So as shown here, we can see different stages of malarial parasites like ringworm, seasons, gametocytes. So here it is shown these forms of Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malariae and Plasmodium ovale. Serological test, it includes malarial fluorescent antibody test. This serological test, it becomes positive after 2 weeks of infection. So it is of less significance in treatment of malaria because in many cases by this time patient may get cured. Rapid diagnostic tests. RDTs are currently most commonly used tests for diagnosis of malaria. As it is time saving, this test helps to detect circulating parasitic antigens. Some test kits helps in detection of vivax, whereas some helps in detection of both vivax as well as falciparum. Differential diagnosis of malaria. Malaria should be differentiated from other conditions like typhoid fever. Typhoid fever is bacterial intestinal infection. Brucellosis and leptospirosis. Brucellosis and leptospirosis are bacterial zoonotic infections. Yellow fever. Yellow fever is viral zoonotic infection. Relapsing fever. Relapsing fever is louse-borne infection. Further, malaria should also be differentiated from meningitis or encephalitis, which can have varied etiology. Further, it should be differentiated from another arthropod-borne infection, that is dengue fever. Now, let's try to have recap on malaria on whatever things we had finished. So it includes what is malaria, how malaria occurs, what causes malaria, how malaria is transmitted, what are signs and symptoms of malaria, and how to diagnose malaria. So to understand this, I request you to watch this video.
Today's topic is malaria. Malaria is a life-threatening disease. It's typically transmitted through the bite of an infected Anopheles mosquito. Infected mosquitoes carry the Plasmodium parasite. When this mosquito bites you, the parasite is released into your bloodstream. Causes. Malaria can occur if a mosquito infected with the Plasmodium parasite bites you. There are 4 kinds of malaria parasites that can infect humans: Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium malariae, and Plasmodium falciparum. Plasmodium falciparum causes a more severe form of the disease, and those who contract this form of malaria have a higher risk of death. An infected mother can also pass the disease to her baby at birth. This is known as congenital malaria. Malaria is transmitted by blood, so it can be transmitted through an organ transplant, a transfusion, use of shared needles or syringes. Signs and symptoms. A malaria infection is generally characterized by recurrent attacks with the following signs and symptoms: moderate to severe shaking chills, high fever, sweating. Other signs and symptoms may include headache, vomiting, diarrhea. Malaria signs and symptoms typically begin within a few weeks after being bitten by an infected mosquito. However, some types of malaria parasites can lie dormant in your body for up to a year. Diagnosis. Blood tests can show the presence of the parasite and help tailor treatment by determining whether you have malaria, which type of malaria parasite is causing your symptoms, if your infection is caused by a parasite resistant to certain drugs, whether the disease is affecting any of your vital organs. Some blood tests can take several days to complete, while others can produce results in less than 15 minutes. Treatment. The types of drugs and the length of treatment will vary, depending on which type of malaria parasite you have, the severity of your symptoms, your age, whether you're pregnant. Medications. The most common antimalarial drugs include chloroquine, quinine sulfate, hydroxychloroquine, mefloquine, combination of atovaquone, and Progranil. The history of antimalarial medicine has been marked by a constant struggle between evolving drug-resistant parasites and the search for new drug formulations. In many parts of the world, for instance, resistance to chloroquine has rendered the drug ineffective.